Okay, seriously, what the heck is that sound? Do I have a large animal scratching the side of my house? What is happening? On foundations you might want to try. What was that? Alright, so today for Foundation Friday, we're going to be talking about what I think are 6 of the most underrated foundations. Hopefully this will give you some new ideas on foundations you might want to try, or you just find it interesting. I am going to be showing you applying them on half my face so you can actually see what it looks like as I'm applying them. And since I am doing a half face, you can see, comparison next to the other foundation on the other half of my face. But if you're new to my channel, I do Foundation Fridays every single Friday. I've tested hundreds of foundations on my channel, so I'll link my Foundation Friday playlist down below. I do have reviews on most of the foundations I'm going to be talking about in today's video as well. So if you want to see the full day wear test and full details on these foundations, I'll link those videos down below. But let's just get into it. Grab your cup of coffee and let's talk about some foundation. Right, so foundation number 1 is the Givenchy Tint Couture Everywhere. By the way, I'm going in no particular order here. I'm not like ranking these or anything. These are just 6 that I found looking through my whole collection that I think are overall underrated. But this one I just think is worth the money. I've talked about this a few times on my channel. I did a passport or like photo, kind of makeup video. I'll link that in the eye and down below. If you want to see exactly how I apply this and what it looks like fully applied as a full face, definitely check out that video. But this is a full coverage satin dewy finish. I usually find this to be pretty dewy. It's a beautiful dewy plumping kind of foundation. It kind of reminds me of how CYO looked on my skin. If you're new to my channel, CYO Life Proof is a foundation that was discontinued, but that was like my holy grail foundation. It reminds me of how CYO looked on my skin, but full coverage version. It has SPF 20 in it, so if you're into full coverage and you're into dewy, I do think this one is worth the money. The only thing is the shade. The shade is not a perfect shade match for me. It is a little bit on the dark side. I have the shade P115, and most of these foundations actually that I'm mentioning today, I don't have a perfect shade match in. I would say 2, maybe 3 are close enough for me where I don't have to mix in a mixer or mix something else, but the other 3 are like borderline wear a turtleneck or, gotta mix something in with it. This one, yeah, it's a little bit on the dark side. I mean, I can make it work. Out of the ones I'm mentioning today, this is the most full coverage and dewy. There are other full coverage ones I'm mentioning, but this is the most full coverage dewy finish one. All right, next up is the number 7 Protect and Perfect Advanced All-in-One Foundation, medium coverage SPF 50. So this is a drugstore foundation. I have the shade Cool Vanilla. I am so confused always by number 7 shades because they always list them out of order online, and it's very difficult to find what actually is like the lightest shade. There might be a lighter shade. If that's the case, please let me know. I will pick up the lightest shade because the shade Cool Vanilla is too dark for me. I know there is a shade Porcelain, but sometimes the shade Porcelain is actually darker. Anyways, but on to the actual foundation formula and everything. What I like about this is that it is extremely lightweight. I don't find it to be similar to CYO Life Proof personally on my skin. For me, this one's a true satin finish, but I love how lightweight it is. It does look like light to medium coverage. I can build it up to be medium coverage, but if I'm just going in with like a thin layer, it does look like more light highlight coverage, like on the light coverage spectrum, highlight coverage. But I like it because it doesn't crease badly on me. I love that it has SPF 50. It's a good like summer foundation for me. It has that SPF. It is more of a satin finish. It's just very flattering on the skin, and it has lighter coverage. So I do love this one for kind of those warmer months because of that. And I think this one could work for different skin types. Just for reference, by the way, if you're new here, my skin type currently is more on the normal side right now. Since I've been off Accutane a couple years ago, it has been on the dry side, so it kind of stays in the normal to dry range. So this next foundation is, if we're talking about underrated foundations, this one has been around forever now, and it is so freaking good. And I just feel like no matter what your skin type, because I've tried this one now when I had oily skin before Accutane and on my skin now, so I know it works for multiple skin types. You guys, Dermablend Smooth Liquid Camo This one is just all around a friggin' winner. I mentioned this foundation in my wedding foundations video. I'm gonna link that video in the eye down below because in that video are some of my all-time favorite foundations. If you want more recommendations for foundations that I love, check out that video. But talk about a friggin' underrated foundation, man. They call this a medium coverage foundation. I think it depends on how you apply it, which is, you know, typical for a lot of foundations, most foundations. If you use less foundation, you typically get less coverage. If you use a sponge, at least for me, I typically get less coverage. So it really just depends how much product you're using, how you apply it. For me, I usually get full coverage with this foundation. This foundation wears and looks like a friggin' dream. It just melts into your skin and looks like skin while still giving coverage and wears amazing throughout the day. So that's the main reason why I made it into the wedding makeup video, is that it just wears incredible throughout the day. Whether you have oily skin, whether your skin's on the drier side, I will say the finish looks completely different depending on your skin type, or at least on my skin. When I had oily skin, this foundation looked very dewy, and now on my skin, it does look more of like a satin, almost satin matte finish. But if you want to make it look dewier, you know, you could just go in with a dewy setting spray afterwards. I use the shade Linen 0C, which is the lightest shade. I wish they came out with more shades in this foundation because it has been around for so long. And I know a lot of makeup artists and stuff use this foundation, so I just feel like they probably should come out with more shades at this point. Now on my skin tone, I can get away with the shade 0C. It is still a bit dark and yellow, but this is definitely one of my all-time favorite foundations of all time. I don't feel like I talk about it enough just because I'm constantly testing new foundations, and this is definitely like an older one, but it is incredible. Super underrated. I feel like I never hear people talk about this on YouTube. So I wanted to do a side-by-side of this one next to this other one I'm going to talk about because they're kind of similar just in the sense of coverage and longevity and everything. But this one is the VDL Perfect Lasting Foundation. So this one I recently reviewed. I have a whole Foundation Friday video on this, and I also did a routine video where I showed you my transfer-proof glowy but powder finish foundation routine using this foundation. So I will link both of those videos down below. I go very in-depth, obviously, about this foundation in both of those videos. So if you want to know exactly how I like to apply this foundation, definitely check out the routine video. Today I showed you applying this with a brush just because I wanted to really give you that comparison against the Dermablend with the brush. But typically I like to apply this with a sponge just because I find with a brush it can get a little bit streaky. So if I am applying this one with a brush, I like to go with the sponge and really just press it into my skin. But this one, you can get full coverage, but you can also really sheer it out. I like this one because it is very adjustable as far as coverage. You can really work with it. It has a satin finish. This one is great on textured skin. So if you're someone where foundation just tends to not look great and you have a lot going on your skin, I find that this one, especially applied with a sponge, really pressed into the skin, tends to look really great. Same with the Dermablend. I mean, both of these are great over textured skin. You really can't go wrong with either of these. I would say just whichever one you can find a closer shade match in. I mean, both are great. The VDL, you do want to give, like I said in that routine video, you do want to give a few minutes before you go in with the next step so that it really sets into your skin. You can get the VDL on YesStyle for around $23 on sale. So the VDL you can get for about half the price of the Dermablend. VDL is a little bit more transfer proof, and I know with masks and everything that is something to consider as well. Okay, this next product is actually the foundation that I'm wearing right now. And this is just such a shame all around because I feel like they just totally missed the mark with the marketing of this one. I talked about this in a foundation updates video and kind of gave my thoughts on this, but this is the Givenchy Tint Couture City Balm. And this is just nothing, like nothing what it sounds like, okay? They say it's a radiant perfecting skin tint 24-hour moisturizer. They say it's like a tinted moisturizer with SPF 25. And the sound of City Balm to me, I mean, and how they just described it, like a radiant tinted moisturizer, it's literally nothing like that on my skin at least. Keep in mind, the way I'm wearing it right now, I made my skin look very dewy. I'm wearing all cream products right now. I have no powder on. I used a glowy setting spray. Like, I made my skin look very dewy, but this is actually a medium coverage satin matte foundation. I wear the shade N04. This one I actually like the shade of. This is a pretty close shade match for me. It's not perfect. It's a little bit dark and a little bit yellow, but I can definitely wear this one. Out of all these, this is probably the closest shade match for me out of any of the ones I'm mentioning today. Probably like half out of this by now. Like, I've used this a decent amount considering how many foundations I have, how many I test. and how many I don't go through that much, I've used quite a bit of this. So I really enjoy this product. And it's rare that I find a product like this that I actually like, you know, something that's matte on my skin and something that's medium coverage matte. Usually if I'm going for something that's matte on my skin, if it's matte, I usually go for full coverage. A lot of matte products just tend to look pretty crappy because it can kind of just like emphasize your texture. This one is just very softening, very flattering, and you can build it up. I do like to initially apply this one with a brush, but then right before it dries down, I like to go in with just a dry sponge and kind of press it, especially on my forehead where I have my like problem area right here. I like to just press it in right before it's dry, and it just really smooths it out. So if you get this one and it's like not working for you, definitely try that. Use a dry sponge and just press it in, and it really melts it into your skin and totally changes the look of it. So try that out. This one I do feel like has a little bit of a learning curve. If you try this out, you'll see what I mean. It's an interesting formula. Once it's on your face and you really press it into your skin, it looks really beautiful. It lasts amazing on my skin throughout the day, doesn't settle into my lines badly, and I just really like the look of it. It looks like skin, which is hard to find for more matte foundation for me. But if a medium coverage, kind of soft matte foundation sounds up your alley, and you like something that has SPF in it, then you might really enjoy this. Next up is one that I recently-ish, like I think, I don't even know when, maybe 4 months ago now or so, reviewed. And this is an expensive one. I'm sorry. But this is the Garland L'Essential Natural Glow Foundation. This guy is $60. Oh man, it's so freaking pretty though, you guys. It's so pretty. The reason why I do feel like this, if it's within your budget, is worth the money is because it's hard to find very glowy foundations that wear well throughout the day. Like without setting with a powder, if you're someone who likes that super glowy, plumping kind of look, it is hard to find that where it lasts throughout the day, and this guy does. You can watch the review video, see how it held up after 10 hours of wear on my skin, but it pretty much looks the same as when I first applied it. I did pick up the lighter shade 00W since filming that video, which is what this shade is, and it still isn't a perfect shade match, so it does look a bit too yellow on my skin. It's definitely closer than the other one, but I like the undertone of the initial shade I reviewed better than this one. This one's definitely a dewy finish, medium coverage, and I would just say overall, to me, this foundation looks very fresh, like fresh when you initially apply it, but also fresh throughout the day. If you're someone who doesn't like to set your face with powder and you just like that really plump, fresh kind of look, I think you would really enjoy this. If a $60 foundation is not within your budget, please don't feel like you need to buy this. I'm just so peeved that CYO Life Proof doesn't exist anymore, because if it did exist, I would say, you know, if this isn't within your budget, buy CYO Life Proof. I'm still trying to find another option for CYO Life Proof. I haven't found a dupe for it yet. But as far as just underrated foundations, this one is extremely underrated. This is so beautiful. At least it's not like La Mer pricing, you know, or Tom Ford. I don't know. Trying to look at the glass half full here. But those are my top 6 most underrated foundations. Again, I'll have everything you need linked down below in the description box. All of the review videos, any of the routine videos I mentioned, and the actual products are all linked down there. But the makeup on the rest of my face today, I'll just let you know what I used. For lips, I used MAC Sore Liner with Lorac Out of Office Gloss. I used Makeup Geek Bedrock and So Pale in my palette here. Prettiest friggin' cream highlight that is $1. The AOA Sometimes Velour highlighter. Oh my gosh, you guys, this feels like friggin' butter, and it just melts into your skin so beautifully. For cream blush, I used Glossier Cloud Paint in Dusk. What did I use for bronzer? Oh, for bronzer, I used Haley's Beauty Foundation Stick in 4.25. But I hope you guys enjoyed today's Foundation Friday. If you did, you can give this video a thumbs up. If you're new here, I upload every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 6 p.m. Pacific time. I love you guys. Thanks for watching. See you in my next video. Bye.